to you all. I'm Tom O'Brien from the Austrade International Education team, and it's wonderful to have you here with us once again, joined by sector colleagues across Australia and around the world. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the many and diverse lands on which we gather virtually today. For me in Brisbane, Queensland, they are the Turrbal people. I acknowledge their ongoing connection to land, waters and community, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend those respects to any First Nations people joining us today from Australia or elsewhere. Welcome to our 4th annual Study Australia Global Agent Week. This year, the program attracts thousands of education agents from more than 80 countries around the world. And we're very glad that you're able to join us today as a valued member of our Global Study Australia community. We aim to support you through events and resources such as our monthly Study Australia e-news and the Study Australia Agent Hub, which is located at the Education Data and Insights, or EDI, digital service. To continue to meet your needs, we've paid close attention to your feedback on our previous Global Agent Week and the mid-year Global Agent Update events. And based on your feedback, we've reduced the length of the program. This year's program is a combination of 2 global live sessions, of which today is the first, a range of local, in-language and face-to-face events being held by Austrade's global network, special edition agent news and updates to the Agent Hub. Since our mid-year Global Education Agent Update, there have been several new policy announcements, all designed to continue to strengthen the quality and integrity and sustainability of Australia's international education sector, and to continue to strengthen the protections in place for our international students. Today's program will start with an update from Simon Puckett, Assistant Secretary in the International Education Division of the Australian Government's Department of Education. After we've heard from Simon, you will also hear from Austrade's Lauren Urquhart, who will share some marketing updates. Lauren will then hand over to Austrade's Rosanna Galvin, who will introduce you to a fabulous panel of international students who can provide you with their own first-hand experience of studying in Australia. Throughout the session today, you are most welcome to submit any questions through Slido, and you should see the Slido function in the WebEx window. If not, we will share the link to Slido in the chat. We will do our very best to answer your questions as we go, and if you see a question you would like to ask, you can upvote the question. Please note that if your question is related to a specific individual's visa application, we will not be able to answer that query in this forum. Any other questions unable to be answered during this session will be gathered and answered in the Agent Hub. We know you will have a lot of questions about visas and visa processing. And for this reason, as with previous year's programs, we have asked our colleagues at the Department of Home Affairs to join us to talk through these issues with you. That session will be run tomorrow, Wednesday, the 27th of November. And you'll be able to hear directly from Andy Dwyer, Assistant Director of the Student Program and Management Section at the Department of Home Affairs. Tomorrow, you will also hear from Kate Tagg from the Tuition Protection Service with an introduction to the support and protections that are available to international students. If you haven't yet registered for that session, we'll add the link now to the chat. And now it's my great pleasure to hand you over to Simon Puckett from the Department of Education. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Tom, and hello, everyone. Firstly, can I start by associating myself with that acknowledgement of country? I come to you today from the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people here in Canberra, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander colleagues on the call. Thank you, Austrade, and thank you all for giving me some time to speak with you this afternoon. I had hoped to be able to share an update with you on implementation of the proposed International Education and Skills Strategic Framework and our plans for implementation on the 1st of January. However, as many of you know, the Coalition has announced that it's not intending to support the proposed amendments to the ESOS legislation that would enable those new arrangements to begin on the 1st of January. That said, the legislation remains before the Parliament in Australia, and the Department is working hard to support the Minister and the Government on implementation arrangements should the bill pass this week, although it looks increasingly unlikely that will be the case. Many of you will have seen updates to PRISMs with new functionality, as well as some work that the department has been doing to collect useful information around T&E exemptions and advice on some of the other exemptions that the government announced under the new framework. Throughout this process, the government has been consistently clear that should the legislation not pass this week, that Ministerial Direction 107 will remain in place. And as you would expect, there is work going on across government at the moment to help the government consider the implications of this, but also think through how it could continue to support its policy objectives of a more managed international education system without having a new national planning level in place and the underpinning legislation to support that. My thanks to all of you for your engagement and your interest this year. This is not my first opportunity getting to speak with and hear from migration agents and those in your space. And I've always found the engagements very useful and thoughtful. So my continued thank you for that engagement. I expect that there will be more advice and announcements from the government later this week or into next week should the legislation not pass before Parliament rises on Thursday night. But at this point, we need to support the Parliament to consider the legislation it has before it. So until that process plays out, there are no further announcements to make in this space. I appreciate that this is a complicated time for the sector. This has been a year of a lot of discussion and change. We will commit to being able to communicate as clearly and as early as possible with you about the implications of the legislation not passing, should it not pass. And today I'm happy to take as many questions as I can, noting that we're in an uncertain period to hopefully give you as much clarity as I can before the end of the week. Tom, I might pause there. I'm very happy to take questions and of course follow up with any questions if there are some following the session.
Thank you, Simon. I'm not seeing any questions come through just yet, but please do add your questions to Slido, and we will endeavour to answer them as they come through. I would just add a couple of comments following on from Simon, just to acknowledge how important it is to us here in Australia that we ensure that the students who are currently here living and learning in Australia have the highest quality experience possible. And to that end, I would just like to bring to your attention some resources that have been recently developed by the Department of Education, a series of guides that are made available to education providers and to states and territories in the sector more broadly to assist with engagement with international students to ensure that they are having the best possible experience whilst they're living and learning here in Australia with us. And I would add to that that the voice of the student in Australia is critically important to us. It helps us to design communications, the sorts of communications that you see on the Study Australia website and also through other channels that Austrade manages. And so to that end, we've currently got in the field the 7th of our international student sentiment surveys, where we ask international students how they're travelling, what sort of supports they need, what kind of information they require. And based on the feedback that we get through those sorts of surveys, we are then able to tailor responses that meet the needs of those international students. So while there's a degree of uncertainty at the moment, please do rest assured that your clients are being well looked after whilst they're here in Australia, and that is critically important to us to ensure that they do have the best living and learning experience possible, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that that is the case. So
thanks, Thomas. I couldn't agree more, and for what it's worth, in the work that the department has been doing to support the implementation of new arrangements, student experience and a quality experience for the students who live and work here has always been paramount in the discussions we've been having and in the interests of the minister. So we are the government and its commitment to student quality, student experience and a quality experience for students has always been a key feature of the arrangements.
Now, I'm not seeing any questions coming through just yet, but perhaps one of my colleagues on the line might be seeing something coming through on Slido, but I'm not seeing any questions for Simon just at the moment. So,
and Tom, if it's useful, I'm available for the whole session. So I'm happy to, if we want to move on, and then if questions do emerge, I'm happy to pop back on screen and cover them that way, or follow up after, whatever is most useful.
Okay, I think that's a good approach. And what we might find is as we move through the presentations that we have for you today, there may be other questions that relate to the presentations that others give. There has been a question come through in relation to Ministerial Direction 107 and any more details in relation to that. Simon, of course, I'll hand over to you to talk to that.
Yeah, sure. So I would advocate for asking that question of Andy tomorrow. Andy Dwyer and I have done lots of joint presentations. Ministerial Direction 107 is a direction set by the Minister for Home Affairs, and this particular ministerial direction has been in place for some time now, and it directs the department to prioritise the processing of visas in a particular way. That we have heard from the sector has created a few unintended consequences in terms of visa processing delays and other causing some challenges, I think, for agents in particular. Because it is a pretty complex direction, I would recommend following up with Andy tomorrow, who'll be able to give you all of the detail about exactly how the direction works, because it does sit within the Department of Home Affairs. But the new arrangements were designed to replace that ministerial direction following the feedback from the sector about the way it was working.
Thanks, Simon. And yes, please do register for the session tomorrow, as Simon says, where you'll be able to hear directly from senior officials from the Department of Home Affairs to answer those specific policy-related questions. Okay, well, thank you, Harinder. In the absence of any further questions at this moment, it's my pleasure to hand over to Lauren Urquhart, who leads on our marketing and promotions for international education, to provide you with an update on some of our marketing tools and initiatives.
Thanks, Tom and Simon. Hello, all. As Tom said, my name's Lauren Urquhart and I work in strategic marketing and comms at Austrade. And I'm just going to give you a quick chat about accessing Australia's nation brand and using our Study Australia marketing toolkit. I do have some slides which I'll share and turn off my camera. Give me one moment. You're probably aware that we use the term Study Australia when we're promoting Australia's international education offering. But you may not know that the visual language of this term is rooted in the parent identity of Australia's nation brand, and it uses graphic devices, typography, and photographic styles inherited from this brand. The nation brand unifies Australia's international education offering under one brand, helps to strengthen our presence on the world stage, and inspires students to study with Australia. The brand guides how we act, speak, and look when presenting as Team Australia. And if you're promoting Australia internationally, then it's likely you're eligible to use Australia's nation brand too. The assets are designed to be
Lauren,
flexible.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just getting some messages coming through to say that the slides are not visible.
Oh, okay.
On the screen.
Can you see them?
I can actually, yes. Okay, so we're getting quite a few comments saying that they can't see them.
Okay, I will stop and try again.
Thank you.
Okay, could we get some thumbs up? I can't see the chat, so if you could let me know, Tom.
Okay, some people have started to say they can see the slides. Okay, and yes, more people are saying they can see them, so thanks.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, everybody. I'm not sure what happened there, but this is the first slide with any information on it that's not my name. So the nation brand assets are designed to be flexible. You can adopt all of them. You can use them sparingly, or you can use them alongside your own brand. To make using Australia's nation brand for the international education sector as easy as possible, we launched the Study Australia Marketing Toolkit in June 2022. The toolkit features nation brand devices as well as Study Australia branded collateral, including campaign assets and templates. You can see some examples of those on the screen now. The Study Australia Marketing Toolkit enables a unified brand identity for organisations responsible for promoting studying with Australia. It's basically a one-stop shop when looking for assets or creating your own assets to be used for the promotion of Australia's international education offering. On the toolkit, you'll find brand guidelines, which include a Study Australia user guide appendix for guidance on how to use the nation brand, and also the Study Australia wordmark. There's also guidance around co-branding if you want to explore how to use the nation brand alongside your own brand. There's all applicable nation brand assets, including graphic devices, fonts, colour swatches, as well as the Study Australia wordmark in a variety of different formats. And it's important to note that when you use these elements, you need to adhere to the terms and conditions of the toolkit, follow the guidelines on how to use them, and they must never be altered. There's templates for social media tiles, digital display banners, publication covers, email headers, and pull-up banners. As imagery plays an important role in bringing the artwork to Study Australia to life, the photography section of the toolkit is massive. It has images that are education-led, and it really showcases the unique Australian education experience. We've also got campaign assets from our Welcome to Australia campaign and Discover Your Brilliant Future Self campaigns, as well as the Study Australia Masterclass series from a few years ago. These can all be found in English, but some of these assets have also been translated into Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Simplified Chinese, Arabic, Vietnamese, Bahasa Brunei, Bahasa Malay, Khmer, Laos, and Tetum. And we're adding more translated assets soon. Eligible organisations with a responsibility for promoting Australian education internationally, such as providers, agents, study destination and government agencies are all invited to register for the toolkit. For agents, when you register, you must provide a URL showing that you're a listed agent representative of a CRICOS registered Australian education provider. And I'll show you what that means on the next slide. So to register, you visit toolkit.studyaustralia.gov.au, and I see that Tom's put that in the chat as well. You can also scan the QR code on the screen. You click on register, which is on the top right corner of the home screen, and you'll be taken to the registration form. And as you're filling out this form, this is where you'll be asked to provide that URL. And I've provided an example on the right-hand side of this slide of what we're sort of looking for. So it's a CRICOS registered. This is an example from ANU, and it has agents listed on its Find an Agent page. If you have any questions about what you need to provide, you can find our email address through the toolkit, but it's also on the screen. The toolkit has over 1,700 different assets, and there's new ones added all the time. So even if you've previously registered, I encourage you to check back when you're creating something new or just to see what's being added. In the past 12 months, we've added a suite of new images that have been taken at universities across Australia. We've got a suite of videos from a new alumni from India, and there's another one to come soon. And we've added more translations of our Welcome to Australia videos. And we've got more translations for our Discover Your Brilliant Future Self campaign videos coming soon as well. So it's a good idea to just check back if you've already registered. We now have our Welcome to Australia video translated into 13 different languages. So I encourage you to visit toolkit.studyaustralia.gov.au and register today so you're ready to go for your next project. You can also access it via the QR code that's on the screen or the URL, but you can also access through the Agent Hub on the EDI website that Tom was talking about earlier. If you have any questions, you can send us an email, which is again on the screen, but it's also, you can find it on the toolkit as well. But thank you very much for that very quick update. And I believe I'm now throwing to Rosanna and our student panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. And before we do go to the student panel, I do note that for some people, accessing the slides as part of this presentation has been challenging. I would just reiterate that the update that Lauren's given us really talks to the toolkit, and much of, for those who were unable to see the slides, much of the slide presentation was providing examples of the types of resources that are available to you through the toolkit. And we have put the link into the WebEx chat and can make that available to others who can't see that. And there it is again. So we would really encourage you to jump into the toolkit, register, and make use of those assets and images to assist you in supporting Australia and the discussions you're having with prospective students. Thank you so much, Lauren. And now, pleasure to hand over to Rosanna and our most excellent panel of international students. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom, and thank you, Lauren, for taking us through the toolkit. Some great resources there. As everyone's mentioned, my name's Rosanna and I'm a content specialist at Austrade. I do usually work behind the scenes to develop content for the Agent Hub and for EDI, but today I'm excited to be hosting our student panel discussion. I know many of you work around the world supporting students in their decision to study in Australia. I'm sure you meet students and parents every day who are full of questions. What university should I choose? What course is best? And at the heart of it, I'm sure many people come to you with one common question. What is it actually like to study in Australia? We're really lucky to be joined today by 4 students who are currently studying in various locations across Australia. In this session, we'll find out more about their study experiences here, and they'll also share some advice for future students. I'm pleased to introduce our 4 guests to you. We have Vanessa Yap from Malaysia, who is currently in Hobart, Kia Masane from Zimbabwe, who is joining us from Perth, Hendrik Lin from Taiwan, who is currently studying in Melbourne, and Fabia Bushra from Bangladesh, who is based in Adelaide. Welcome all, and feel free to turn your cameras on now. Thank you for joining us today. To kick it off, we'd like to hear a little bit more about each of you. I'll start with Fabia. If you could tell us about yourself and your student experience in Australia so far, such as what you're studying and where you're studying, and also tell us about what your highlights have been in Australia to date. Thanks, Fabia.
Thank you, Rosanna. Hello, everyone. My name is Fabia, and as Rosanna stated, I'm based in Adelaide. Currently, I'm studying a Master's of IT Enterprise Management at University of South Australia. I've actually completed my degree just 2 weeks back, and I'm about to graduate in this December. So I arrived in Australia 2 years back in February 2023. And prior to that, I have studied back in Bangladesh in marketing and also worked in the corporates, and decided to choose Australia as my study destination because of the high quality education that Australia offers, and also the lifestyle, the relaxed lifestyle and the friendly environment this country offers. I chose Australia for my higher studies. So my student experience has been very amazing so far. Especially as an international student, I have received ample amount of support from the university itself. For example, at every point regarding studies, whenever I had difficulties understanding or with any assignments, I always had my professors helping me, replying to me, and also different communities supporting me. Also, there are different clubs in my university that I got to join, clubs that has my interest, and I always was associated with them. There were many on-campus events organized by the university that are focused around students' well-being. So considering everything, I so far had a very good experience. Besides, considering Adelaide as a city, the government of South Australia, different organizations in Adelaide holds different events that are student friendly. For example, there are different recreational events, there are beach picnics, even climbing, gaming, going to different hiking groups. That these overall actually contributes to the mental well-being of the international students residing in Adelaide. My highlights, my personal highlights of being here as an international student will be there are enormous amount of volunteering opportunities in Adelaide that has helped me network a lot and build a lot of valuable friendships, because I started my life from scratch over here, and these volunteering opportunities helped me meet a lot of people. And then, of course, I believe the others will share the same experience, that we have a very unique scope of working with multicultural people. In all of my academic projects so far, I have been in 3 projects where all my 5 of the teammates were from 5 other countries. So it's a very unique opportunity for me. And also, considering Adelaide, I always had the scope to travel across Adelaide at any given time, because Adelaide is a very cozy city and it's very easy traveling here. I can do a lot of things, multiple things in one single day, has never been a problem. And last but not the least, being a Study Adelaide ambassador had helped me connect with a lot of more international students who has the same emotions and situations as me. So it helped me help other international students too. And being lastly, being able to experience different kind of cuisines in Adelaide has been a great experience. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm so glad to hear that you had great student support not only at your university but also in the wider community and other organisations here in Adelaide. And congratulations on your graduation next month. That's really exciting. I'll now hand over to Kia. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're studying and what your experience has been so far.
Hi everyone, my name is Gia Masiani. I'm from Zimbabwe and I'm currently studying for a diploma in occupational health and safety. I have a legal background. I'm a lawyer from Zimbabwe. I studied my bachelor's of law back home in Zim, and then I decided I wanted to spread out my wings and specialize in labor. And I realized that Australia is like one of the top countries that specialize in when it comes to labor and work health and safety laws and all of those kind of things. So I decided, let me try out Australia. So yeah, I've been in Australia for almost 2 years now. I'm also graduating in a few weeks, before end of December as well. So my experience has been really, really, really exciting, and I've got to learn a lot of things also, I think also because of the support that I get mostly from Study Perth. As an international student ambassador for Study Perth for Zimbabwe and mostly covering most of the African countries as well. So the experience to be able to meet with different stakeholders, meet with different organizations that support us, different conferences and events that the government of Western Australia has for us here to make our study experience much more good, like a home away kind of a home kind of feeling that they give us. The support that we get even from the school, the different communities that we have here is what has made my experience here pretty much easy for the past 2 years. And the fact that you get support for things like your mental health, for work, for school as well. You always have like a friend to talk to. We have an app called Unibuddy as well. Like you get someone to talk to sometimes when you do not have because sometimes when you move away from home, it gets like pretty much stressful sometimes because you miss home, you miss some things, but the support has really, really been like great. So and also my college also, there's resources for us also as well. There's an open door policy at my college as well to get to learn and be heard as well, and also the ability to meet different kind of people within Study Perth. Like being part of Study Perth is one thing that has really, really helped me in terms of meeting different kinds of people, different kinds of organizations, and you're always led towards the right path on what to do and what not to do as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kia. And for those on the call not familiar with the Study Perth or Study Adelaide that a couple of our students have mentioned, they're the sort of peak bodies in each state and territory that sort of support international students during their time here in Australia. So I'm really glad you've had a positive experience, Kia, and that you're able to find such a welcoming community in Perth full of different people and people from diverse backgrounds. I'll hand over now to Hendrik to hear a little bit more about you. Thanks, Hendrik.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hendrik, and I'm currently studying at the University of Melbourne here in lovely Victoria on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. My major is in biomedicine, specifically anatomy and physiology, and I've just completed my second year of studies, undergraduate studies here. So far, I've had an extremely positive experience as a student living in Victoria, where I've met wonderful and inspiring teachers and professors that have become mentors to me, as well as many amazing friends. In addition, Melbourne's multiculturalism and dynamic environment has been a highlight, alongside many other factors such as convenient public transport, safety, and the presence of major international companies around the city that offer an abundance of opportunity to all students. I guess also with my studies, one of my highlights there has been able to do cadaveric dissections at university, one of the only places that actually offer full body cadaveric dissections around the world. So that has been an incredible experience, being able to interact with the human body and learn so much about it. So yeah, there's been some of the highlights of me studying here in Melbourne. Thanks.
Thank you, Hendrik. And it's great to hear about your academic experience and your ability to build those sort of mentor relationships with your professors. Thank you. And we'll finish off with Vanessa, if you could tell us about yourself and your experience so far.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Yap, a postgrad student currently studying a Bachelor of Medical Science and Doctor of Medicine in Tasmania. I chose Tasmania as my first choice for studying medicine because of its small, tight-knit community and a very supportive environment, which I found it very perfect for studying. Before this, I used to be in a university in New South Wales. It was good, but I can genuinely say the support system in Tasmania has been really exceptional. It's one of the reasons I felt very at home here. One of my highlights of my time in Tasmania is the chance to explore the natural landscapes. I've actually fallen in love with the outdoors, whether it's bushwalking, hiking, skiing. I've also had a privilege of engaging deeply with the student community through many societies and volunteering opportunities. The roles I'm proud of this year is being a Study Tasmania International Student Ambassador. I've also established the Psychiatry Society in Tasmania and also the Tasmania University Student Association Women's Officer, where I advocated for women's rights. But this would not have been possible without a supportive community, and it allows me to contribute more to an inclusive environment and has definitely shaped to the person I am today.
Thank you, Vanessa. And yes, Hobart is one of those incredible places, isn't it, where you have the cosmopolitan city, but nature is just on your doorstep. And I guess that leads well into our next question, where I'm hoping you can each tell us a little bit about what your typical day as an international student looks like for you. You're obviously based in different cities across Australia, so it'd be great to hear a little bit more about what a day in your life looks like. I'm going to mix it up here and I'll go with Kia first, please.
So I am in Perth, Western Australia. So a typical day, I would say, it's just the usual. So I go to school twice a week, which is 2 days in a week, which is my today, Tuesday and Thursday. So when it's school days, obviously wake up in the morning, catch my bus to college because the bus system is really, really good. It's very, very easy to catch your buses and make it on time for your classes. Then I get my classes when I attend class, and then typical just your lectures, and then you go home, and then I go home, and then if I have work that very same day, like for example today I have a shift later on today. So when I have a shift, it's either I go to school and then I go for my shift, and then I go home. Sometimes if I do not have class, it's either I'm just at home watching TV or I'm hanging out with my friends at the beach, because Western Australia's got one of the most beautiful beaches. We have beautiful beaches in Western Australia. and not crowded. So yeah, that part as well. And also just hang out with my friends. So that's basically like my day. It's nothing special unless I have like planned out activities. Then it changes from the usual. But yeah, that's my typical day.
Thank you, Kia. Sounds like you're doing a good job balancing work and study and a bit of beach time, which is my favorite as well. I'll go to Hendrik now, if you could talk us through your day.
Yeah, so a typical day in my life probably usually revolves around my study plan for the day, as my course is rather heavy on content and rigor. But I always try to reserve some time for other extracurricular activities that I am involved in. For instance, I've been a volunteer at the Royal Melbourne Hospital for the past 8 months, where I support clinical staff by engaging with patients on the more social side, assisting them with any non-clinical needs they may have. I also try to interact with my university community by helping out with events such as orientation and open day, meeting new people all the time. I also support some student clubs such as Omnisci, which is a student-led magazine aiming to disseminate scientific knowledge and content every semester. And I also work part-time as a high school mathematics tutor. Last but not least, I always try to have some me time as well, where I hang out with friends and family. I also get to engage in some of my hobbies, such as piano and getting involved in Melbourne's incredible sports and food scenes. So we are home to the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the largest stadium in Australia, where you get a chance to watch exciting footy and cricket games all the time. And there's so many different cuisines and coffee shops to try. So there's always something to do around town. It's easy to get around and see many different things all the time.
Thank you, Hendrik, and thank you as well for the volunteer work you do at the hospital. It sounds like a really meaningful experience for both you and the patients, so that's wonderful to hear about. I'll now jump to Vanessa.
Okay, as a medical student, my days are very busy but incredibly rewarding. Mornings usually start with classes, which can involve from lectures to hands-on practicals, going to clinical rotations, whatever they decide to assign me to. And it normally stretch up to the afternoon. So during breaks, you often catch me reading up or working on assignments. There's always something new in medicine. To maintain some work-life balance, I make a priority to make time for myself just because my courses tend to be easily overloaded with too much units. I love going to Pilates classes, and when the weather's good, I like to take advantage of Tasmania's beautiful scenery by going to the walk. The best part, there's no such thing as the bad view over here, so every corner of this island is very stunning. In the evenings, I often focus on my committee work. I'm involved in a lot of events and organizing, as what I've mentioned before, and I work on initiatives that I'm very, very passionate about. No 2 days are ever the same. I make sure to balance my academics, community engagement, and my personal downtime.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa. And yes, it sounds like a very busy life indeed. And we'll finish off with Fabia. If you could tell us what your typical day looks like in Adelaide.
Sure. So I think it's pretty much the same as the other three students, is that it's actually fully revolved around if I have a class on the day or if I do not. So if I typically have a class on a day, I would go to the class, and then after coming back, if I have a work shift, I go to the work shift, and after coming back, I focus on my studies and follow through the assignments that I have to catch up on. That's typically the day. But besides that, I'm a very outdoorsy person personally, and Adelaide has wonderful beaches. And so it's easy to commute to the beaches, as well as because we have trams within the city and also buses to catch on, so we can easily commute to the beaches. There's a very vibrant community. I love to do that. And on weekends, there are different hiking groups who schedule hikings in the city, so we can always go for hiking as a group, as well as there are different restaurants. As I told, that Adelaide is a compact and cozy city, but it has so much to offer. So there are so many different cuisines, and every time I try to pick up something new and go out and eat, and of course hanging out with friends is something. Coming down to volunteering, as I said in the beginning, that there are enormous volunteering opportunities. So I have been volunteering with the UniSA Student Association. So every now and then we have different events going on at the uni. It can be orientation or open day or mental health well-being, different events. So I volunteered there. I also happen to contribute to the Women in STEM Club at UniSA. So we organize different kinds of weekly events and monthly events. So I focus on those when I have time. A good part about the Australian universities is that as much as it encourages you for volunteering, it also never tells you to prioritize your work or anything else over your studies, because our initial intention is to be a student. So my extracurricular activities never became a burden for me over my studies. So that was a good balance that I could find out. Yeah, that's about it. That's how my day looked like.
Wonderful, and great to hear you get involved in so many campus events. I think orientation week on an Australian university campus is always so much fun, so much colour, so much to do, and yeah, I love it. Thank you. So I think now we'll move to our next question, and in this one I just want you to take you back to before you'd arrived in Australia, and we're hoping you could share what you wished you knew before you arrived here. Is there something that could have helped you prepare more for your time here? So what would you say to a student that was just about to leave and come to Australia? And for this one, I'll start off with Vanessa, please.
Coming from Malaysia, I expected Australia to be warm year-round just because I come from a tropical world. So experiencing the cold winters is a very big surprise. Now I do love the change in season, but winter jackets is a must. That's my first big tip. There's a few other things that I wish I've known. One is the support services available to international students, such as like navigating things like healthcare, registering for a GP, finding a place to live. It can be very overwhelming. Look what your university has to offer before arriving. A lot of the time they provide it is we are just very overwhelmed with all the documentations we need to do. If the uni also offer like a mentor-mentee, take advantage of that kind of programs. It's a great way to adjust to a new environment. And also don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone is generally very friendly. I think cultural differences is a very big thing, but I think it's a good reminder that everyone's actually willing to help. That's why we are very welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa, and I'm glad you found some friendly faces to help you out when you started here. I'll go to Kia now, please.
So I moved to Western Australia from a very hot country. So because it's a landlocked country, it's always hot. So the transition between Perth from like same and Perth wasn't that bad in terms of the weather, because Perth, Western Australia is very hot. Even like the winters aren't that cold. We do not get snow. So the weather change wasn't really that bad. So if I'm to advise anyone who's coming from like Africa or like Southern Africa or like any other student comes somewhere, like when they come into Perth, just know that you're going to get hot and like familiarize with the fact that you're going to get hot because it's very hot here. But besides the weather and stuff like that, I would also say that familiarize yourself with researching and always like looking up for new information, especially about the town that you're moving to, the school that you're going to, the place where you're going to be staying. Make sure you find out more information about that, because sometimes when you arrive, for example, when I arrived here, I didn't know about Starter Perth. I didn't know about like so many of those events that they have, such that you feel like you're alone when you're actually not alone, because there's so many resources available for you. So just play around your computer, your phone, search up the town that you're going to. You find out that there's so many interesting things that you can do in that town or in that city or the state that you're going to. And also your school, when you get to your school, when it's orientation week, make sure you attend orientation week. Because that will help you to know about all of the resources that are available. Because when classes start, trust me, most people are just getting busy, and you think that there's nothing that's going on because we're going to class, but orientation week will help you know. And also when you arrive, ask questions all the time. When you feel like you want to know something, always ask. There's always someone who's willing to help you. Do not feel shy to ask. So that's what I would say to someone who's trying to move to Western Australia or Australia. Yeah.
Thank you, Kia. And I agree, doing your research before you come can make a really big difference. And certainly on our Austrade Study Australia website, there's a range of resources on there that can provide information from current students here and ambassadors about what life is like in Australia, and different blogs and videos and that sort of thing. Hendrik, I'll hand over to you now. What would have helped you prepare?
Yeah, I think like our previous two student panelists have brought a lot of good points, a lot of things to look out for. I think personally as well, I find that there's so many things to be aware of. You might not be able to think of everything at first, so I think an important thing to do is when you do come into Australia, always try to interact with your local community, by engaging in any opportunities that present itself, whether it's in school, university, or in the wider community. Although it can be quite daunting at first, you'll come to find that most people are extremely friendly and always open to have a chat, regardless of your English ability or where your background is from. And these experiences will serve to create many valuable memories, help you adjust to local customs and practices, and make your time here in Australia ever so rewarding. I've been very fortunate to have had incredible support over the years by many people I've met. These have all helped me, seamlessly integrate into my local community, from amazing and passionate English teachers that have helped me in improving my pronunciation, my reading comprehension and writing, as well as friendly and easygoing peers that have always treated me as one of their own, equally and with respect. So I've always felt really included in everything that I've been part of, and very blessed to have been welcomed by everyone that I've met.
Thank you, Hendrik. Sounds like you've had a really positive experience. And we'll finish off with Fabia.
Yes. So I love what all of us said. It's pretty much we share the same comments. Also, I'll just add some extra things that about regarding documentations. It's the best, like if you want to drive in Australia while being a student, then it's the best if you can bring your driving license along with you. It will give you if any point, if you feel like you want to get a car, so just so that you have more opportunities to travel a bit farther for work or just for roaming around, that's a good thing that if you bring your driving license along with you, because I've seen students whining or probably regretting that they didn't had the driving license with them. That's regarding the documentation, I would say. And regarding packing your bags while you're coming here, I would agree with everyone else that the Australian winters can get really cold and really windy as well, which is very different from what I had back in Bangladesh. And also summers can be extremely, extremely hot, especially in South Australia. South Australia has the driest weather in all over Australia. Your skin starts kind of cracking because it's very dry out here if you keep on moisturizing. So those are the explorations I had when I came here. I was wondering what's happening with me. So those are the information I got to know by being a local here over some time. So make sure that you are always bringing your proper attires with you while you're packing your luggage. Plan it around the weather and the climate that you're coming in. If you're coming in February, pack more clothes according to that. If you're coming in July, pack your clothes according to that. Rest of the things you're going to find in the local market, so do not stress much. And also Australian winter requires a puffer jacket, not the normal sweaters, because as I said, winters can be windy and sweaters do not resist the wind. You need a puffer for that. So you need to bring up or buy weather-friendly clothes over here. And coming from Bangladesh, from a South Asian background, I've seen a lot of students bringing in their cooking utensils and other spices and different things. I would recommend you can find all of these in the local markets over here, because Australia is a multicultural, it's a country and it has so much diversity. You'll find grocery shops of your own local communities. So you can grab all these things from the local shops as well. So do not stress much regarding those. And last but not the least, Australia has amazing student deals for almost everything. There are always student discounts going on electronics, on clothing, on housing, home appliances and different things. So while you are a student, try to avail all those offers for you. And do not stress about bringing a lot of things from back home, because you're going to find great deals over here, because overall the country cares about how it creates a good environment for its students. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Fabia, for those packing tips. I think that's really valuable because I think you often underestimate just how big Australia is. And if you're up in Queensland, it might be very hot. But yeah, for Vanessa down in Tasmania, it can get quite cold. So I'm conscious that we've got about 5 minutes to go. So I've got one more question here, and I might just throw it open to whoever wants to answer it. And I think a lot of you have already spoken to this point, but it's, have you received help from any services during your time here as a student? For example, from your university or college, from one of the groups like Study Perth or Study Adelaide, or from a local student hub or centre? I'll just open it up if anyone in particular wanted to speak about their experience getting support services.
Yes, I would like to take that in if that's okay. So I personally have taken services from UniSec Counseling. International students most often do not realize that mental health can be is a very big part of your experience as an international student, because things get very overwhelming because of the great shift you have in life. So your university is going to have those services, so avail that. And I also took a service from Service SA, because that helps us get the proof of age card and any other agreements, legal documents that we have, and the people over there are very friendly, so you always get that. And last but not the least, I also took services from the Consumer and Business Services. Their website is very detailed, so when you're finding an accommodation and you want to know about your legal rights as a tenant or a leaseholder or a rooming agreement, always I referred back to CBS website that helped me go through or navigate through my queries. So yeah, those are the services that I took.
Wonderful, thank you. And Vanessa, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I do. There's something that I've learned during my studies over here. Study Australia website is actually very, very resourceful, much more resourceful than I ever imagined. So actually take advantage of that. They got, I think there's a page on budgeting, there's a page on accommodation and to different states. It's amazing how I never knew. And I would love to share that to all my new international friends. Please use that. It's fantastic resource. Also, please join societies is important. Going to events, you get homesick very easily. So just having a community to talk to and chat to so that you're not hiding in your room, it's very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm so glad you liked the Study Australia website. Hendrik.
So personally, I've engaged a lot with the services that the University of Melbourne has to offer. So we have a pretty comprehensive program to support students. There's lots of people to help with academic skills. They run workshops every week on how to write essays, how to reference articles, how to study for exams. There's pages to support with like financial aid and course planning. So you're never lost as to what to do or how to proceed with your studies. I've always there's also a service called Stop One, where it's pretty much a go-to place for any questions you have. So I've been there many times, and I've always got my confusions clarified, whether it's something to do with my visa, something to do with administrative inquiries, anything about my studies at all. I usually get it resolved quite quickly and efficiently. So I found that really useful, and it's really made my time here a lot more smooth sailing and much more enjoyable as well.
Thank you, Hendrik. And before we wrap up, I'll just see, Kia, if you had anything you wanted to add about support services you've accessed while you've been here.
Not to sound biased, but I will ask everyone who's coming to Western Australia to familiarize with the Study Perth website. Because that's where you get everything that you want to know, be it like your unis, the accommodation that you would get, the different kinds of study, education agents, the events that are happening within Perth and like the state, how to draft your resume, your offer letters, because most of the time when you arrive here, you also need like a part-time job to help you go around as well. So that also will help you with your transition into the community. And also like Vanessa said, make sure you attend those events, those societies, join those societies. It will help you plenty plus. Yeah, and also social media. Social media is very, very useful right now. Just play around your phone, your social media, your Instagram and TikToks. You can find so many helpful things that will show you the right things to do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kia. And yeah, just to add to that, as I mentioned earlier, that the Study Perth, we have one in each state and territory in Australia that offers similar sort of services and support to our international students. So it's definitely a fantastic organisation and resource to have on hand. And Fabia, just quickly.
Yeah, quickly wanted to add about Study Adelaide website as well. Sorry, I missed that. It is very detailed as well, like Study Tasmanian, all the other ones. And also UniSA also has academic advisory. If a student, I've seen students going for academic advisory regarding their results, or if they had an integrity issue, or they're not being able to understand something, they have student help pals coming in to help them as well. So, and there's also a separate international student support from whom I got clarified about my working rights as an international student. So these are the services, other services that I also took, and it was really helpful as well. That's all.
Wonderful, thank you. And that brings us to the end of this session. So thank you all of you so much for sharing your student stories with us. I know our Global Agent Network will be able to use these stories and these insights to support other students considering studying in Australia. I'm now going to throw back to Tom. I'm not sure if we've got time to take a couple of questions before we wrap up, but I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Rosanna, and thank you to our amazing international student panel, Vanessa, Kia, Hendrik, and Fabia. Some really great insights and some really great practical advice from all of you. I hope those of you joining us today get a sense as to how much we care for international students in Australia and how important it is that all international students who choose to study with us have a safe, welcoming, and supported experience during their time here. And some of the examples that we've talked through on the panel today, I hope to illustrate that. I would just add one quick thing in relation to the smaller cities, noting that we've got Vanessa from Tasmania and Fabia from Adelaide. You will see increasingly on the Study Australia website a lot of information regarding options to study at Australia's smaller cities. So do keep an eye out for that. I would like to just invite Simon from the Department of Education to perhaps reflect on some of what was discussed in the panel before we do close the session today. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks so much, Tom. Firstly, I couldn't help but smile kindly at the reflections on Australia's differing temperatures and climates, because living in Canberra, we certainly get every season, and I think we might rival Adelaide in terms of dryness, heat, and cold, but it's certainly not a competition. But I think that's a really useful, that was such a useful presentation from all of the students in terms of how to adjust to a life in Australia. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hear from everyone. I guess the last comment I would like to make is just on reflecting about our engagement this year with international students, with universities and other sector representatives, with migration agents and other people in your sector, your sectors. Just how thoughtful it has been to have a consistent message come through all of those engagements about supporting students to have a quality and safe, a high quality and a safe experience here in Australia. Whether it's been conversations around suitable housing and what we can do as a department to incentivize additional investments in housing, whether it's about how do we communicate changes that might happen in the space in a way that demonstrates to students that Australia is a place that is absolutely open for students to come here, and that we really value your participation in our classrooms, in our communities, or whether it's through some of our other engagement with peak bodies, where we constantly reflect on the really important contribution that both international education makes to Australia's economy, of course, but just the very specific and personal people-to-people connection that is made through student engagement is just a really consistent message that comes out regardless of who you're talking to. And it's fantastic to hear it again in the conversation today. Thomas, I can see in the Slido there's one question about MD 107. If you're comfortable, I can address that really quickly.
Please, thank you.
The government has been really clear throughout the conversation we've had on the framework that if the legislation does not pass by the end of the week, that Ministerial Direction 107 will remain in place. As you would expect, the departments like ours and the Department of Home Affairs are doing lots of work to support ministers to understand the impact of that decision and also how best they could continue to support their preferred policy objectives. You know, they are looking for a more managed system, and what other arrangements they could consider as part of that system in the event that the legislation doesn't pass. So at the moment, the government's been very clear about its intentions for MD 107, and I'm sure as we get closer to the end of the week, they'll have more to say publicly about those arrangements.
Thank you very much, Simon. And I would just reiterate that the session tomorrow is a dedicated session by the Department of Home Affairs. And I know that there's questions in relation to visa settings and so forth. So please do come back tomorrow for the presentation by our Home Affairs colleagues who can answer those specific questions. So look, that almost brings us to an end. I want to absolutely thank our presenters, Simon, Lauren and Rosanna. As we've discussed through the last hour and through the panel presentation, there is a wide range of student life and pre-departure information available at the Study Australia website. So we would really encourage you to explore sections called Life in Australia and Plan Your Move, and encourage your clients to jump onto the Study Australia website pre-departure so that they can prepare for a wonderful experience in Australia. There's so many links there to local provider and state and territory student support services, and some of those have been discussed today, but there are many, many more. I would also encourage you to pass on the advice offered by the students today, and if you miss anything, you will be able to watch the recording of this week's sessions on the Study Australia Hub. And finally, before we go, you will see a short survey pop up as you leave the session. It's very short, it will probably take about 30 seconds of your time, but your feedback is really important to us and we appreciate it if you could fill it in. We want to absolutely thank you sincerely for all that you do in helping students all over the world to realise their academic and professional roles. As our Australian education representatives and partners, we acknowledge your ongoing commitment to Australia and to the students and to the families that you assist with your advice and your support. So thank you for joining us today, and I very much look forward to seeing you again at the same time tomorrow. Bye for now.